All right, here we go. My name is Victor. I'm an alcoholic.
Victor.
My sobriety date is April 22nd, 2009. So I currently have 15 years. So a little about, I tried to keep it what it was like, what happened, what it's like now. I got notes because I tend to ramble. Big shocker, both my parents were alcoholics. Yes, I know. I come from a normal family. My mom used to call my dad an alcoholic from over her glass of Manischewitz wine. I remember when I was a little kid looking for candy in my dad's car, and I found a bottle of vodka in his glove box. I didn't know why you would have vodka. I'm just a little kid, And then I get a little bit older. I'm looking for Playboy magazines under the couch, and instead I find a bottle of vodka under the couch. I'm like, Dad's old enough to drink. Why is Dad hiding vodka? I would find out later. So growing up, at a certain point, I was not cool as a kid. Still not cool. But I really wasn't cool as a kid. My older sisters, they were cool. And at a certain point, when I got old enough, they decided that instead of having to sneak around smoking pot during the day when my parents weren't home, they were going to introduce me to pot so that I wouldn't be able to tell on them because I was smoking too. And I thought, wow, smoking pot, that's cool. And I thought, well, if smoking pot is cool, then drinking must make me more cool. And then I thought, well, if drinking makes me more cool, dropping acid will make me really cool, and so on and so on. So I don't really remember exactly when all that stuff happened, but I do remember that on the day I got my driver's license, I wasn't drunk, but I crashed the car right after getting my driver's license. I pulled out in front of a car that smashed into me. And I remember I had to give my buddy, so it would have been my 16th birthday, I had to give my friend the 2 hits of acid that were in my pocket so we could run it back to my sister's apartment where I had just left. So all that said, there's only one reason that I am an alcoholic, and that's this guy right here. I don't blame my parents. I don't even blame genes or any of that stuff. This is just my own personal opinion. I shoved drugs and alcohol into my pie hole until I did enough of them that, when I was a kid, I remember my dad used to smoke, and I hated it, right? Because it would be winter and the windows would be up, and I'm never gonna smoke when I grow up. And my dad was always late, right? I was always the last kid sitting on the curb after Little League practice. And I was like, man, I'm never going to be late when I grow up. And when I grew up, I never smoked, and I was probably about 45 minutes early to get to this meeting. And but for some reason, I never said, you know what, I'm never going to drink and become an asshole like my old man. But that's exactly what I did. I remember when my dad would get mean when he would drink, and that's one of the things that kind of really let me know that the party was over, was when I started getting mean, because I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun drinking and a lot of fun times, but at a certain point, I caught myself just getting really, really angry. So, anyway, I left sicker than most, right? I was definitely sicker than most. When I was moving to Los Angeles, I wasn't moving, but the first time I drove from Atlanta to Los Angeles, I stopped in New Orleans, as one does, and went on a bender for a couple of days in New Orleans. And then I continued the bender for the rest of the drive to Los Angeles, right? Like with a glass and a cooler full of ice, drinking whiskey and Coke the entire drive, like I'm Hunter S. Thompson or something. And in my defense, Texas is a very long, boring state, right? I was like, the first time I saw a tumbleweed, I was like, wow, a tumbleweed. And then by the time I was leaving Texas, I was like, if I see one more goddamn cool weed.
Then you hit Arizona.
So, anyway, my dad died when I was 26, and he was 69. And I don't know if you could say he died of alcoholism, but I don't think it helped. I plan to live longer than 69. I hope to live longer than 69. And when Dad died, my mom's drinking really went off the rails. And my mom's drinking got so bad that I didn't even want to go over and see her anymore, right? And this is crazy, right? Because I was mama's boy. I loved my mother, but her drinking was just, my sister would call me up. She'd be like, Victor, you gotta come over here. Mom's crazy. You gotta, And I wouldn't go over. So after a while, my mother found Alcoholics Anonymous. And after a year, my sister calls me up and she says, Mom has been sober a year now. And when you're sober a year, they give you a cake at the AA meeting, so you have to come to an AA meeting. I was like, fuck that. But I was gonna go, right? So, I had a couple of cocktails, I went to the meeting, and it's funny because I can remember the first shares that I heard, or the first shares that I didn't hear. Because I remember this guy telling his story, and what I heard was, I was riding around in limousines, I was drinking top shelf liquor, I was doing cocaine off the asses of supermodels. And I was thinking to myself, this guy sounds like somebody I want to party with. I was like, what's the problem, And I never heard the problem. I can't remember how his story ended because that's all I heard. But what happened at that meeting, because I was dreading the end of the meeting, because I was thinking, at the end of the meeting, everybody's going to corner me, and they're going to be like, you're a drunk too, Victor. You need to stop drinking. You need to come into Alcoholics Anonymous. You need to be in here with us. Look at you. You're drunk right now. That's what I thought was going to happen at the end of the meeting. But instead, what happened at the end of that meeting was they said, we love spending time with your mother. All these people who I didn't know came up. And I didn't realize it, but they actually were 12-stepping me. At that point, that's what planted the seed in my mind that Alcoholics Anonymous could take a woman whose own son didn't even want to be around her and transform her into somebody that people loved spending time with. Now, I was still young and I still had a lot of drinking to do, and I still had a lot of damage to do. I was a blackout drinker and a binge drinker. When I drink, I would drink for days. And the thing about my blackouts is when I would wake up, I wouldn't be able to remember what had happened the night before, but I knew it was bad, and I knew people were mad at me. And eventually what would happen is that I would start getting like these little flashes of shit that had happened the night before, or things that people said. So of course what I would do is I would just start drinking when that happened, because I didn't want to remember what happened the night before. And so with that continuing to happen, my life became just, when I'd wake up in the morning, sometimes I would just have a few seconds of peace until I would start remembering things. And that few seconds would be the highlight of my day. And then after that, it would just be a nonstop waterfall of anxiety. And, I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. I remember I wasn't suicidal. I guess you could say, because the thing is that I remember I had this patio out back, and I had Dad's snub nose 38, and I was like, the patio backs up next to this nice greenery, like foliage. So I was like, well, if I just, shot myself in the head this way, there won't be any cleanup. They'll just be able to take the hose from the deck patio and just hose off the greenery and that'll be fine. But I'm too much of a coward. I was worried it would hurt, and if it didn't go well, then it wouldn't be cute. So finally, I realized that it was going to be Alcoholics Anonymous. And I came in, and I got to tell you, at first, I wasn't hearing the people who were sicker than most. I was just hearing a bunch of, because here's the other thing. I'm an atheist. So some of you can stop listening now if you'd like. But,
You're going to hell!
yes, exactly. So when I first came in, all I heard was people saying, God, 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 God. But then at the sunrise meeting, I heard a guy named Rick D. who told a story about drinking some piping hot vodka out of the glove box of his car first thing in the morning. And I thought, well, I would drink piping hot vodka if that's what I had. I said, there, that guy, he's like me. That guy's like me. And that was the first guy that I identified with. And now that I am sober, I do what I call the 10, 11, 12 cha-cha-cha, which means that every day I try to get in 10, 11, and 12. And step 10 means that I'm keeping an eye on my own shit. I'm keeping my eye on how I'm treating others. 11 means that I keep an eye on what's going on inside of me. I meditate. My rule is I meditate 15 minutes every day, and unless I don't have time, in which case I do a half hour. And meditation is the only way that I can keep my mind from wandering and from just running amok with resentment. And 12 means that I be of service and I show up at 7:30 in the evening when normally I am in bed right now. But just trying to be of service and to practice these principles in all my affairs. And if I do, 10 and 12 right, then 11 is easy. And, that's basically the way I work my program. My home group is the attitude adjustment at 6:30 in the morning in South Pasadena. I also hit sunrise meeting on Saturdays at 6:15. And that's because I was an early morning drinker. I have to get a meeting in first thing, or else my mind runs amok. And I remember being very grateful when I first heard about the early morning meetings, because I didn't know how I was going to make it 10 o'clock in the morning before being able to talk to another alcoholic. But it works for me, and I think with that, I'm gonna open it up and let people share. I appreciate you guys listening to me.